Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Your Town Matters. I'm joined today by the Mayor of the Town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. Thanks for being here today, Brad.
As always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Now, obviously, you had your first council meeting now that you've amalgamated with Bayside and Shamcook to become a bigger town. How did it go with 9 councillors?
It was an adjustment, but it went surprisingly smoother than I thought it would, to be completely honest. So as a council, we did meet. We did an orientation session as well. We kind of did a little bit of what we call a register update to get them up to date on current files before council, but we did have that regular council meeting as well, and all 3 new members of council were actively involved in the debate, the conversation, asked good questions. So I couldn't have asked for it to go any smoother, to be completely honest. Doesn't mean we're all going to get along. In fact, there was, I think, a 7-2 vote, so we weren't all unanimous on everything, but healthy debates, good debate, and I'm glad to have them part of it. And it really didn't feel like 6 and 3 councillors. It did feel like 9 councillors working together, and that is the goal.
I'm going to get into what you'll be navigating this year in terms of representing a bigger community later in the show, but I'd love to start by talking about initiatives that were underway long before local governance reform, which is affordable housing opportunities for St. Andrews and the St. Andrews area. You've made a lot of headlines this past week with Compass Housing. Can you tell everyone a little bit more, a reminder for where you're at with that project?
Absolutely. So when council started, I have said on the show before that it was an election issue, even on CHCO-TV, that all councillors felt that something needed to be done by with housing, and even people that were unsuccessful for council also said that housing was something that was important. So it was no surprise. It was our number 1 priority. We've been working very hard since getting in office, which was about a year and a half. This is our 3rd development, but this would be the one that you would earmark as affordable housing. And affordable is such a broad word, and I know we can talk about that. But for this particular deal, the town of St. Andrews, as part of the 2022 budget year, allocated $900,000 towards housing initiatives to spur development in our community. And this, by far, is the largest investment. It's $500,000 that is taxpayer money that was part of the budget process. And we're investing it with Compass Housing, and they will be building a 42-unit building, 36 2-bedrooms, 6 1-bedroom, and basically the $500,000 will be recuperated through tax revenue. So this development does have to pay tax, and over the next 10 years it'll offset that $500,000. And the good thing about it is the developer wasn't forced. They wanted to. They wanted to lock the price of rent in for 15 years. So even after this investment's paid back, we're going to have an affordable housing option in St. Andrews even beyond that. So we're really excited. I know there's a lot of people in the community that are really struggling, and really, to be honest, they get tired of us talking. And it's easy to, I've said it before, it's easy to blame other levels of government to say, well, housing should fall to the province, or even if you look through CMHC, maybe the federal government, maybe it's not a municipal issue. But no one is coming to St. Andrews to fix our housing problem if we don't do it ourselves. So council took an aggressive but a leadership position to do something about it. And this project does have to be completed by the end of 2024. So if you're struggling right now, there's reason to believe that things will get better in the town of St. Andrews in the near future.
So shovels in ground likely by spring of this year, it's fair to say? It
is. In fairness to the developer, I know there's a lot of pre-work that's needed, but until they get the kind of 3rd reading and the development agreement in their hand, there's only so much they can do. So now that that has been done, the developer is going to be extremely busy, but they're planting shovels in the ground in spring, and we couldn't be more excited to start getting some more rentals in our community. The other investments that we've been doing are certainly going to spur some more development, but this one is certainly going to be levels of between $800 and $1,200 for 1,200 be 2-bedroom. You could debate is that affordable or not, but the truth of the matter is that is below market value right now in the town of St. Andrews. So it is going to help.
And talking about the definition of affordable housing, I think it is Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission that says it's 30% or less of the median salary of the province, which I believe is $42,000, which then would make affordable housing $1,050 approximately, which does, I know, to so many of us who even lived in bigger cities at times and paid less than that, it seems quite high, but still that is the definition.
And that's per individual. So if you're a couple, all of a sudden you're up to over $2,000. And the definition, and the same as for CMHC, it's 30% of household income. The definition of affordable is such a broad term that sometimes affordable isn't really affordable. But I will be honest, and I think everyone that is around development, the days of finding $300, $400 a month apartments, unfortunately, with the cost of everything, isn't plausible. And if you look at the province of New Brunswick with double taxation, essentially, in the way assessments are going up, when assessments go up and taxes go up, that does get paid back by the people that are renting the unit. So it's a really tough battle, and I can say that we've talked to literally dozens of developers, and to get affordable units, they do need help from the municipality. So this council said, we're going to do it, but we need it done quickly because it's a problem that is really impacting our community right now. If you look at the New Brunswick Community College, students are coming here, they want to go to our campus, they arrive, they can't find a place to rent, so they either transfer campuses or they drop out. So our enrollment is down at our community college. I don't know if you with CHCO get messages. I do as mayor of people that live in our community, single parents that can't afford to live here anymore. They want their kids to go to Vincent Massey Elementary School, but they can't find an affordable option, sometimes no rental option. So they move out of our community. And with the cost of everything going up, the other kind of group that I always refer to are seniors. Like, they are on fixed incomes. A lot of the income that they receive isn't going up, and it's getting harder and harder. They might have lived here their whole lives in this community, and they're saying, what do I do now? So we did something about it. Whether people want to say it was too aggressive or not on council, they did something about it.
There's definitely a time when I think when gas was more affordable, when even commuting to St. Andrews was more optional, but again, now at this point in the time we're living in, commuting, if you're on a fixed income, isn't possible either. When you say that rent will be fixed, and this is $800 for 1 bedroom, $1,200 for 2, and that is, if you're splitting that, $600 a month is quite affordable. Does locked in mean truly locked in for 15 years? So
it is with inflation adjustment. So if there's other factors that come in, those aren't relevant. But if, let's be honest, 15 years from now, if you're charging $1,200 for 2 bedroom, you'll probably be bankrupt. So it does have to take into account for that, but that is really the only stipulation. The good news is although we put it in the development agreement, and it's important to have that there in writing and guarantee it, this developer didn't come. This developer could have came and spurred a project and probably made more money just doing market value. The rent is there, the demand is there, but they needed help from the municipality, but they're leaving dollars on the table as well. I actually just did a quick calculation, and if you think about it, those rental prices are $200 under market value. So if you have 42 units that you're subsidizing $200 a month over the course of 15 years, that's $1.5 million. So the developer is truly, and they have ties to the community, is doing this to try to help improve life in St. Andrews. So right. Do they need a return on investment? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, and we've gone to RFP on other things, I can guarantee you that this is the best deal that I've seen so far as even going to requests for proposals that this town has seen. And I can honestly say that at an upcoming council meeting, the public is going to hear from another RFP that we issued off Champlain, and you're going to get the details around that, and council's going to have to debate should that go ahead or not. So right. More to come on affordable housing for sure. I think you've said this in the past, that it is hard to find developers if they don't have ties to the community to want to do something that is effective and has some community value. Are you still finding that now? For sure. Since St. Andrews is a hotspot right now, our population growth is 14.8% on the last census. A lot of people during COVID made the decision to move here for our quality of life. you could probably, if anything, build a brand new building, very luxury, and charge high market value and probably get it in this community. And that's what we're tending to see on market value. But with that being said, we did get a presentation from another developer that's looking to build affordable semi-detached units to sell in the community. And I know that this was a debate we even had at council to try to keep the cost under $300,000. And someone's like, well, that's still not very affordable. Well, if you go out right now and get quotes on trying to build a house, you're going to find out very quickly that $300,000 unfortunately is on the lower end of what you can do. So I'd say we've got a mixture. I think that the town has been pretty candid and open that we're now concentrating on affordable. So these higher end properties, we're not saying we don't want them, but you're not going to be getting the level of municipal support, at least financially, to make it happen, right? So I would say for every one that I hear that is for profit, I'm hearing someone trying to be creative to get a return on investment, but still fall at a little bit better of an affordable price.
I think it was Xander Gopen from the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission said $300,000 would mean the household had an income of about $70,000 to make it affordable, which is I like looking at numbers that way because it really puts it in perspective.
But it's tough. Like, there is a number of people in our community, they have good paying jobs. We're very fortunate between education, marine science, and even owning businesses that we do have a number of citizens that are doing all right. But we've got a lot in our community that, and I mentioned some of the segments, but we've got seasonal workers that really want to stay in town. They love working in St. Andrews. The nature of their job, unfortunately, they can't work in the winter. Even two people, $70,000 could be tough. But with that being said, $300,000 is a lot better than $500,000. So every unit that we put on the market for $300,000, it does give an opportunity for somebody to live in our community that might not have had an opportunity had we not. So.
Definitely with your day job at Kingsbrae, you see firsthand sort of the way these issues are connected, that you can't necessarily get workers here in the summer if you don't have these housing options available. There's a trickle-down effect that really disrupts town life on so many different levels. Is this what you're hearing from the business community at this point? I know it's January that we're filming this, but obviously people are preparing for summer. It's not really that far away when it comes to opening doors for tourist season.
I have direct experience in this, so I have the benefit and privilege to work for Lucinda Flamer at Kingsbrae Garden, and we talked about this. It was almost 10 years ago now, hard to believe, but again, there's an individual that took a leadership position. She acquired an apartment in downtown St. Andrews that had 10 units in it, and as well as purchased another house and converted that to another 5 units. So because of the housing challenge and through obviously her management team, Lucinda Flamer made the decision to start doing this a long time ago. And when we went to recruit people to get them to work in our community, the number one question we actually heard is, well, I love it. Looks like a beautiful business, a wonderful community, but where do I live? And we don't have good answers to that. But when we acquired those, we were able to get the top culinary students to move to St. Andrews and actually work in our business. And a lot of those have gone on to work in other businesses. They've actually bought houses in the community. So it is a way of recruiting young people to our community. So I've seen the frustration, but I've also seen when you provide the housing solutions that it can make a difference, and it makes it a more attractive place to not only work but to live. And I think that that's almost a little pilot project of learning. And I will say, although those units are used for Kingsbrae staff and they're not advertised, we get hundreds and hundreds of calls every single year for people that are hoping to find a way to live there. So you got to think that a development like Compass Housing, I already saw it on social media, on some of the posts. People are very, very interested in how do they rent one. So I don't think they're going to have much of a challenge to fill that building once it's complete.
I have a feeling there will be a long wait list as soon as it is open. You have made bold moves as a council in taking on projects like this, but we've also seen some not go into the development stage, such as Bridle Path, which was proposed for Water Street, right near the dollar store. That is not going through. Correct.
That was a tough one on a number of different levels. So Council looked at it as an opportunity to increase housing rentals in St. Andrews. I wouldn't call that affordable. They did range in price. Right up to $2,500 to $3,500, I believe, for the top floor. It was quite quite high per month. But in the same sense, we have a diverse population. There is some people that are looking to downsize their house and might have the means to pay for those, or new residents that haven't found the appropriate way, or the way, not necessarily appropriate, but the way the particular type of housing they're looking for in our community. And that would be a diverse type of housing. But what it came down to with that development is it was contrary to our secondary municipal plan. It, I think, was contradictory to 3 of the 4 height requirements, and it required 6 zoning variances in order to be built. And the question that I asked myself, and I entered debate on that one, which was rare, was if you were a person that lived beside that vacant lot, would it be reasonable for you to question town council if they turned their eye on a secondary municipal plan and granted 6 variances to put a building beside my house? And it might deter from my value. That is a reasonable thing to ask. I will say council went to first reading and put it out there because they wanted to hear from the public. But the problem with the process of municipal government is when you go to first reading and you put it out there to what they call a hearing of objections, people assume you're going to do it. Sometimes you've got to do it just to hear from the public, and that's what council did in this case. And I will say that there was a lot of people that provided some really good support and some constructive feedback, but we also, unfortunately, in that process saw the worst in some people where things weren't always true. There's personal attacks, and you hope that isn't the way of the future, because it seems like politics are getting more and more polarized, and people are expressing heavier views. It wasn't an easy process on council, but I'm really glad that they waited all out, made the decision they did, and haven't been discouraged to stop pursuing options for housing in our community, because if they stop doing what they're doing, I'm not saying development won't happen, but the reason we've had 3 multi-development projects in a year and a half is because of the attitude and the mindset change that these councillors have demonstrated.
Can we talk a little bit about Van Horn Garden Homes, which is another project underway?
It is, yeah. So for those of you that go by the corner of Bar Road and Mowat Drive, you'll see that a lot of the land preparation is completed. There is 25 units expected to go in there. And from what I understand is the interest for that project, they're more market rate is what those are, but still by our standards fairly reasonably rented. And the land prep appears to be pretty much done, so I think you're going to see some move ahead there. I think they build 5 units at a time is the plan, but they also have a time frame in which they need to complete their project as well. And you should see that underway as well, which a lot of people are excited for. What's really different about that area of town is it wasn't really a high growth area that the town envisioned because we didn't own the land, but what we saw is all private land, all private developers just happened to acquire those big parcels of land, and it's kind of on its own became the higher density area of housing for St. Andrews. So with new developments, I know we looked at the sanitary lines to make sure that the sewer can hold the new housing, and it can. It's good that they built it that way, but at some point I have talked to council with a future development. They may have to look at something like a traffic study, because that's a lot of new units coming in one area. But it's great news, but we want to make sure that is the area that can hold it. But I will say, if any area can hold traffic, it probably would be Highway 127, because those are kind of, I guess you could say, main arteries and veins coming into the community.
We've been talking a while too for plans for a new Passamaquoddy Lodge. Where are we at in this stage? That's
a good question. Normally I'd be able to say like this is where we are. That one is council's going to have a conversation. So council did give them first right on land that is off the Bar Road. That amount of time has expired. It's not the first time it's expired, it's the second. So in fairness to them, last I heard, they were trying to get better cost assessments to the province of New Brunswick. I do know that our MLA, Kathy Baucus, has been vocal talking to other ministers. Minister Carr came down here, and great guy. I've had the pleasure of knowing him when he was a minister before. He's actually been inquiring too. The truth is we haven't seen much movement on that from the provincial government side. So if you're someone that really supports that project, don't be afraid to get a little vocal, because we're not seeing a whole lot of movement. I will say that when you look at our lodge, one thing that's working against it is the board and even the province has done a wonderful job of maintaining it. So when you look at our Passamaquoddy Lodge right now, it looks pretty good, but the truth of the matter is, if you actually know what's going on there is bathrooms without doors because they're not up to regulation code side. There is places where wheelchairs can't get through because the way the drawers are. There's situations where those lifts that are required now to pick patients, the rooms aren't big enough to have them. So despite how it's been well maintained, to me that gives an opportunity for something else, maybe housing. But when you're in that chapter of your life, I think you deserve to go to a place that has a bathroom door. And that's really, I think, for a lot of us, what the conversation is. I have heard the only thing I've heard against it is a lot of people feel it's unfortunate that at the Bar Road you wouldn't have the view of the ocean that you do there. So that's the only opposition I've really heard to it. But yeah, so waiting to hear more. But council is going to have to talk about what's next for the land. Do they extend it? Do they just leave it? There is no immediate town plan for that land.
Okay, and I know that it's been just a couple weeks, really a matter of days, since you've taken on this new responsibility of Bayside Shamcook as well as mayor. How do you anticipate your role changing this year?
I don't really think that it will change a whole lot. The reason I say that is I've said it before. So Shamcook and Bayside, I've always really, in my mind, considered it part of St. Andrews. I know I wasn't elected by them, and I guess I didn't represent them. I guess I had no access to their tax dollars. So it's changed that way. But the reality is what's always been good for Shamcook Bayside has always been good for St. Andrews, and what's been good for St. Andrews has been good for Shamcook Bayside. So keeping my focus on putting myself, I've said it, in my neighbor's shoes. We're going to have to go through a lot of bylaws. We're going to have to look at every single one of them. And all, in some cases it'll just say this bylaw does not apply to Shamcook Bayside, but we're really going to have to put ourselves in our neighbor's shoes, but also hear what they're saying on each of these. So I'm looking forward to that. The real change as far as being mayor is it's very obvious that the Regional Service Commission is getting more authority. They're getting more services. The ones I often refer to are tourism, obviously recreation as well, economic development, community development, public safety. So they're getting all these new categories that now they have more say in as a region, which is good. We need to work together, but they're also, more of our tax dollars are going to the region as well, so they're going outside. And what that looks like is still being defined, all the categories, all the groups. We did have our first Regional Service Commission meeting. I will say that the board of the Regional Service Commission, I've got a lot of respect for the members. They all seem like they are looking for the best interest of the region. But that's a lot of change, and we'll see once it all settles how I feel about where we're at and how council feels and how the residents feel. But it's a big change on that level because they are going to be making more decisions for our community.
I was saying this to Mayor Craig of Eastern Charlotte this week, that it feels almost like the Service Commission is almost a second council in some ways, just with all the mayors almost being in like a councillor position on a larger scale. It
does. It's a little different too, and not debating it, but because the population of St. Stephen and Eastern Charlotte are over 5,000, on operational and budgetary issues, they get 2 votes and we only get 1. So that's kind of a little bit of a change, but it really is going to be another council. And when you have that many new services, they're each going to have subcommittees. For a mayor, you're going to have to be engaged a lot more, and you're going to need more support from councilors and maybe even residents. All these committees, depending what it is, council will be debating at the next regular meeting on who they think should sit on these different committees, and those can be changed. But I think the amount of responsibility of the Regional Service Commission from a municipal standpoint is going to go up significantly.
Well, I'm hoping in 2023 you are once again my most featured guest on really all platforms of CHCO. Having you in our backyard really means I can have you here every month to go over council, which is wonderful.
Even in a blizzard.
Even in a blizzard, which we're filming in today. Everyone's at home from school, but you're here. But what's on the agenda for next month that's of note that should get people watching?
I think the agenda has not been officially set, but there is going to be more discussion on housing. I think that the RFP that has gone out in Champlain should be discussed, and council thinks that it should be discussed in a public setting, so people get some details on what that looks like. But for the most part, it's one of those things that stay tuned to CHCO and find out. I will say that one of the blessings of the pandemic was the switch to being more visible through Zoom and through Facebook and through CHCO being there for virtually all of our meetings. I think it has greatly increased the, I guess you could say, the transparency of council. I remember when I was on council before, we'd only have a couple people that would show up at a meeting, and that's all anyone knew. If Barb Rayner wasn't there from the Courier back then, no one knew. But with CHCO right now, there's hundreds of people that watch every week, and we can't say thank you enough for the partnership. It's great having you in this community, and it's great for what you do for council.
Well, it's great having you willing to come sit here, and I know council meetings for even myself can be, sometimes I have to get it from you in layman's terms. Well, what happened? So it's nice to always have you here to do that also publicly so that people have a chance to. And also, I'd like to remind people at home, if you have questions for Brad for next month, I feel like maybe we should make this show a little bit even more dynamic, where if people want to send in questions, we can vet them, and maybe in the coming year we could do a live show.
I'm good. I'd welcome that. I have no notes, and if I don't know something, I will say I don't know something. So,
well, thank you for being here today, Brad, and I'll see you again next month.
Thank you.
My guest today has been the Mayor of the Town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.